Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Creatives Ignite. I am getting back from Creative South. If you were at Creative South, I hope you had a great time. And I was convincing my guest today to come to Creative South, and she almost did, but she's for sure going to be there next year. And I'm really excited.
Sure.
So we are both friends with two people that you work with, Marius Valdez and Mina Khalili, and both of them have been on the show. And then Marius was telling me about a project that you worked on, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about today. Most of the people here are not professors, and some I know Josh works at a university as a designer, but it's a mix of people that are listening, if you're listening on the podcast after it's recorded, but you can always come live. So Stephanie, I'm excited to have you. And but a lot of people are gonna maybe connect more with your running a business, running a design business. But I also think there's so many things that I've had some clients for a really long, many years, 15, 20 years. And I know some people are like, oh, boring. But I think what you've done with this one project that we're going to talk about in a minute, that Marius was telling me about, I kept thinking about it. And I was like, it allows you to be flexible or explore when you have a project that's repeated, because you get to try new things as you grow as a designer, as an entrepreneur, or in just how you market. So I don't actually think it's a bad thing to have the same thing in it. Yours isn't the exact same, and you're letting your students. But one of the kind of overarching things is how you love teaching design studio. Or yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and you teach at the University of South Carolina. So USC means a lot different things to some other parts of the country than it does to you. So you're in Columbia, South Carolina, but give us kind of an overarching of who you are, where you are, and what you do as a teacher, but also what you do in your design studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate everybody's time and being here. Yeah, so I'm at USC, University of South Carolina. I have been there for 21 years now. And I've seen a lot of different roles like within the university, and taught all the ranges of classes from the very beginning to our seniors, to our graduating class, to graduate committees and all of that kind of stuff. But I thought that I would start with explaining how I got where I got. So I'm just going to share, I put together just a few slides to share to kind of explain this.
Perfect.
And this first one is where it started for me. My grandfather was a commercial artist, which meant graphic designer back then. But he used to hand letter tractor trailer trucks, and he only ever used a yardstick and a paintbrush, and he would like never touch the paintbrush to the yardstick, but he would letter all these trucks. And as a kid, he never said no to me. He would let me hammer nails into boards, and he would let me glue things, and he would let me fill in these letters that were on the truck. So he would outline them and like move his ladder down the truck, and he would hand me a paintbrush and say, stay in the line. And that was my only instruction, was don't go
Like
outside.
how old? How old were you?
I was like 6 or 7.
Oh, wow.
And he had a lot of grandkids, and my mom was from a big family. And so he just never said no. He didn't mind us being there, which was awesome. And so that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be with him, because he didn't care if I got messy. He didn't care if I spilled anything on me. And that was fantastic. And I love that. So that's definitely, I had no idea what, typography was or what those letters were. I just saw them, we would paint them, and I would stand away from the truck, and I would be like, oh, that's beautiful. I didn't know, I probably couldn't even read at that time. I don't know. But he was the one that taught me how to read. So that was kind of like, he was very influential in my life.
Paul said, what an awesome instruction for a kid. I think, yeah, just stay in the line, right?
Stay in the line.
But how he was giving you he was giving you time. He was also giving you some freedom.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, keep going. So your
Yeah.
parents.
And so he also he painted mascots on wrestling mats. I remember going with him to do that and install those or see those. And so like Bucknell University is really close to where he grew up, Ivy League school. And so I remember going to Bucknell campus as a kid with a wrestling mat. And then all of this beautiful signage, which if you go to small town Sunbury, Pennsylvania, where my mom and dad are from, a lot of the signage that is out on little mom and pop shops is still my grandpa's work. And he's been gone since I was a senior at Penn State.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so it's still very cool to like see the craft of that. And so I think that I'll tie that back in, but the craft of his work and seeing that at a young age made a big impact. But my parents were always super supportive. My mom was very artistic. My dad's an accountant, so not so much on his side. But my mom would let me color and paint and play with Play-Doh, and she would make us homemade Play-Doh, and I could eat it. And they just, again, they never said no to me. They just said, if you want to be an artist or if you want to be a designer, or if you think you want to do this, then do it. Let's do it. So I went to Penn State for my undergraduate degree, and I was never anything else than a graphic designer. I knew the minute I walked in the door, that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
Yeah. And I can't even say that 100% fully understood what that meant until I got into class. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is right. Okay, we did okay.
But your parents knew what that was. I mean, for me, my parents didn't know what graphic design was at all.
Yeah, my parents knew that was okay. And a lot of my high school teachers would tell me, oh, you're going to end up in art education. Like you won't pick like a fine arts or an arts field. You'll be in art education. And I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to make the stuff and do the stuff. So yeah, I went to Penn State. I got my BFA in graphic design in 1999. It was hard for me. I always tell students I was a craft nightmare when I started. Like I remember thinking my professor's never going to measure this square. Like it's never going to happen. They have too much stuff to do. And, I got that back that first project and probably had a C or lower. And I was like, oh my God. So I learned pretty quickly that craft was going to be super important to what I had to do. And I struggled with it. I would rework projects, for, probably to a point of making myself sick over it. But I realized like, this is the only way that this grade is going to get better. And I wasn't fixated on the grade, but I was fixated on getting better. I also did not get into the graphic design program, which was only 20 students accepted at Penn State my first try. They had a summer review, so I had to go again. And so I worked between spring and summer and got my portfolio ready and entered again and got in. There was 20 students when we entered, and only 13 of us graduated because the rest either failed out or were kicked out. So
let me ask you this. So at this point, I don't know exactly how old you are, so I'm trying not to ask the age question. Yeah. But like when I was in school, we were all in the computer, but it was the first group of kids that were on the computer only. We did have some classes that were completely handcraft, but it wasn't, it was like sophomore level. Our students where I teach, we go through a review at the sophomore level after their spring semester, sophomore year. So when was your review? Was it after freshman year or?
It was sophomore year. We took foundation level classes the first year, and then we took like graphic design 1 and 2, and then you applied. And I think again, if I think back at it critically, it was probably still craft at that point while I didn't get in, and then I went back and we had to enter with all of the work from class plus our photo work, I think. And I think it was probably my photo, black and white development, that kind of thing that wasn't spot on. So I went home and worked on that and went home and probably just really cleaned up. I remember we had an accordion fold project and the thing was like huge and it all had to line up. And I don't know if mine did. So I fixed it. I was like, okay. So in a way, I think that taught me like, okay, you're going to have to work a little harder for this. Like maybe this is coming easy to some students, or maybe they're just outworking you. And I didn't like that. I'm pretty competitive. And so it was like, oh, I don't want to be outworked. So I worked really hard and I got in and I stayed in. And I got into graduate school and then I went to Kent State in Ohio and got my MFA.
Did you know you wanted to teach at this point? So why go on to graduate school if you are already in your head like, I'm not going to be a teacher? When did you make that change?
I did. Probably junior or senior year of Penn State. I said I want more. Like it was a combination kind of thing. It was like I want a different perspective. Penn State's program at the time was very illustrative. It was taught. It was very small then, and you kind of repeated professors over and over again. And so I was like, I think there's more out there. Like I just wanted to see what else is there. And also the professors that I had at Penn State made us tough. They were not always the easiest professors. They didn't sugarcoat anything, which I can definitely appreciate. But I was like, maybe I can teach this and there's a different way to say it, or there's more to say, or I could explain it, or, so there was there was still a lot of questions about design in general and design education, I guess. And so I picked a school. I went to Kent State, which was completely different than Penn State. Like Penn State's very illustrative at the time, and Kent State is so Swiss that I was like, I don't understand what a grid is. So,
but that's a good learning then. If you didn't get it at undergrad, then to get it in grad is great.
Yeah. And we did get it, but no one, like I said, no one explained it the same way. And so maybe it's just hearing it a different way. And I think about that a lot when I teach is I can repeat the same thing, 15 times and I may not get everybody, but if I repeat it again differently, I might get someone I missed. And so I think about that. So I went to Kent State and I had a completely, when I look back at that time period, I feel like I probably exploded in conceptual thinking, in learning how to be confident in my work, in kind of knowing what I was good at and what I was not good at, and, just trying to figure all that out, which is what, grad school is supposed to be. But I learned from an amazing group of professors there. J. Charles Walker was the head of the program there, and John Buchanan, Jerry Callback, and Eric May. Those four gentlemen were instrumental in where I am now. Eric May, he passed away a few years ago, but he taught me about bookbinding and letterpress and calligraphy and hand lettering. And it, to me, was seeing my grandfather again. You know what I mean? Like he had passed by this point, and Eric was soft-spoken and patient, and I could ask him a million questions and I could stand it over his shoulder and be like, do it again, show me again. And he was so patient about all of that. And so he really made me fall back in love with making things, and precision of bookbinding and precision of lettering. Jerry Callback was my illustration professor, and he was amazing. He was more direct. He told me to never draw small. He said, you can't handle it, don't draw small. And
because you couldn't, or anybody couldn't?
I can't handle it. Like I'm not good small. I'm like, I have to have the whole sheet. And so he literally gave me a notepad that was like, probably 24 by 36. And he said, this is your sketchbook. And I was
wow.
Like, okay. So that was really great. And he also told me never to try and draw realistically. He was like, you can't do that either. And I was like, oh, all right, that hurts a little bit, but it was true. He just knew, like, be expressive, be silly, be you, and just do it. And so I learned that. And then John Buchanan invited me to Glyphics, which was the design studio at Kent. And that was it's something that I've now helped instill in our program. And so it changed my education. It changed how I learned to work with clients and all of
So,
that.
so explain just so somebody like Maya in Norway might not know what, like doing what a design studio at a university would be like, because it's as
Yeah.
a class. Could you explain
Yep.
that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's college credits for being in a student-led or student-run faculty-led studio. And so you function as a regular design agency. We had real world clients that paid the studio. We as designers weren't paid, but it funded the studio, which funded all the things we needed. And you worked in there. I think I had maybe 6 to 8 peers in design studio with me.
At the same level, like they were all grad students, or were
No,
there? Okay.
there were some undergraduates, some graduates. There was at least one student who had repeated, and they were like the design studio leader, you could say, like they were the liaison
Yeah, they
between us.
weren't repeating because they were bad. They were
No,
repeating
no,
because
no.
they were good, because they could
Yeah,
lead
that's
the
right.
team, right?
Yeah. And so yeah, so that was an experience for me that was, you were on your own. You had responsibilities. You had a team that you couldn't let down. You had clients that you couldn't let down. And you're trying to balance your other schoolwork. So that really became, those were my people. Like we were there late at night. And
Because you had still to work within the semester system, right? Because it wasn't like you were
absolutely.
at the end of the semester, you're not continuing to work on this project. People have to turn in a grade for you. So was the teacher kind of deciding what projects would fit within that window?
At that point, yes, we had certain clients that we worked with. They had established, obviously, relationships. And I think that they probably knew, okay, well, we can get X number of theater posters done in a semester. Clarion University was one of our biggest clients. We did all of their like bulletin, brochure, because like classes were still in books back then. And so they were our big moneymaker. And then the rest of them, we balanced nonprofits in there too. And so that was a really cool experience.
So explain that. So sometimes it is you're taking on work. Usually it can't really be advertised, but at least
Right.
that's what with a state institution, you can't compete with a regular company outside. But it is obviously people who are still trying to if they're undergrad, there may not be they're not done with all their schooling, so there's some learning. Things might take a little bit longer, but they are sometimes there's clients within the university that come to the design studio, but then sometimes they are was that other university in a local area?
It was probably within like an hour radius of
Oh,
us.
so that's pretty
Um,
far.
yeah, but I don't think they were smaller. And so Kent had a design program. My guess is they didn't have a design program. So we probably offered them a service at a discounted kind of thing. And they were getting good quality work and it was consistent and they had fresh looking, covers every time and stuff like that. And then we worked for Kent State has a fashion program and we helped with that was probably one of the funnest ones I remember, but we helped them put on their fashion show. And so we did all the graphics that were in the back and projected and like loud music and lights. And I was like, this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen.
So they would give you a budget. Sometimes they are paying tell us if are the students getting paid or they're just getting credit, and then the studio gets equipment, or students get to go to a conference or something. How would the pay go?
So the studio was paid, the students got credit, but the pay went to making sure we had copiers and printers. We always had a really nice lunch at the end of every semester. The refrigerator was always stocked. Like there were perks to it. And so you didn't really care. Like I never thought about, oh, I should be getting paid, because the experience was so mind blowing at the time that I was just like, everybody should do this. Like, why isn't everybody doing this? But you had to be invited.
So it
And
was in some schools, and I'm not sure what it's like at your school, but sometimes it's an application, much
yes.
um like a directed study or something.
Mhm.
But it at your school, you did the three of y'all get to the three design professors get together and decide who you're going to invite?
We did at the very beginning with our first group. And so this is still our first year. But then because I'm faculty leading it right now, I sort of know the personalities a little bit better. And so I know who's coming in and going out. So this process, then I was kind of looking for, okay, we need students to have some leadership. We need students that have this skill, or we need this kind of personality. And so everybody's trusted that I'll just pick it correctly. And we reviewed portfolios the other day in Design Studio, because in our design studio, those students have 100% say in what we're doing. And so I figured if they have 100% say in what we're doing, they have 100% say on who's on the team.
Oh, nice. How long have you taught design studio at South Carolina?
This is the first year, but it's been 20 years in the making.
Because you've done client projects in the classroom for a long time. It
Yes.
gives me chills. I'm so excited. So, was this a new studio then, or was for y'all creating it, or were you?
Yes.
This is the
It was
first year.
Yes, this was brand new. I can say that in the past, I've proposed this idea to several chairs, several deans, several presidents. At least probably 3 times I've pitched it. And we at some points were promised funding or space, and then it would fall through. But last year before, 2022, we wrote a grant, a McCausland's grant at the university, and we were awarded $50,000 to start. So we have $50,000, but we have to be self-sufficient in 3 years.
Wow. And did
So
they give you space?
yes. So and I should have taken a picture of that, but yes, we have space. It's a classroom that has no windows in it, but they let us we bought computers, and we have a conference table, and we have, a screen, and we have everything that we need to have our client meetings in there. We painted the walls gray and black. We have a yellow door. They've let us do what we needed to do. And it's functioned fine. Like, I think that our clients love to come and see us in that space, and the students like hang out there, and they have access to it 24/7.
So I was looking over my notes from when we met a while ago, and now, of course, I can't find them. You should see my desk. It's sort of like the stuff behind me. I'm trying to like look bigger so that I'm covering. I usually stand, but I've been standing a lot at Creative South, so I'm ready to sit for a little bit. So I think we talked about a resew machine. Do y'all have a
Yes.
resew machine in design studio or in regular classroom?
It was purchased with Design Studio money. The Design Studio has priority to it, but we have pulled it out and let other students use it. We had Brad Vetter come and do a workshop, and we let the students use it then. And Design Club uses it, and like it's hidden, it's protected, but it's out there.
So tell people, if they don't know what a Riso, or however you say it, it's RISO machine.
Yeah.
Tell them what that is, and when did you first? And I'm sorry, I don't go in order of my questions.
Yeah,
I
it's
realize.
fine.
I'll get back to it, but we're sort of we're almost
good.
to number 2 now. So I don't remember if I wrote anything about a Riso machine.
Yeah, so our resew machine is basically a digital silk screen, is the best way that I can explain it, or a digital press, like a kind of letter press, I guess.
Yeah.
But you basically work in layers. You print one color at a time. It's the most sort of generic Xerox machine that you can have. And so
the colors are transparent.
ish.
Or are they opaque? Can you add something to them to get more transparent?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can't add anything, but you're trying to layer. So you're thinking primary colors make secondary colors, right? And then
yes.
then we got white, and then we got black. And then it's like, so the students are slowly figuring that process out. It's been interesting to watch. That process to me makes sense. But I have printing background, so I can get that. But sometimes they get very stuck on, okay, well, how do I get these two things together? I'm like, we have to make two different layers. And the other thing that they really want is the perfection. They want it to line up perfectly. And I said, it's not going to happen. Like, there's just too much to chance that's happening inside the machine. The grippers change, the paper size change, the ink level changes. And so you have to love that. You have to start to embrace that. And so they've struggled a little bit, but they love it. They want to play on it. They want to love it, but they want it to be perfect.
I think that's just us as designers. Yeah. We like it to work out.
The first time that I was introduced to it and that I got to play with it was Kate Bingham and Burt came, and she did a workshop with us, and she talked all about it. And it totally sold our entire faculty. Oh yeah, we've got to put that in the grant. Let's take something else out and put that in.
And that was an internal grant, or was it an external grant? I'm like internal. Writing up notes for myself.
It's internal.
Okay, internal.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I want you to tell me why. You told me that you love teaching design studio. And I want to know why. So you have been trying to do this for 20 years and you finally get to do it. You get the grant. When did the grant come? When did you get the yes from the grant?
I think it was, we applied, and I could be wrong, but I think we applied in 21. We got it in 22, and then we had to start implementing it. So we had to get, all the equipment, everything up and running, find the space. How's this going to work? Okay, get the students in there. And so the fall, Mina and I specifically worked through the summer to get everything ready. And then the fall, we took students. But I'm going to share my screen again. But this is why I love it. These guys are the reason that I love Design Studio. And I'm sure that it could change in the sense, like, I'll have a whole, fresh set next semester or next year. And I'm hoping that they're going to be as good as this crew right here. They work so hard and their energy level is like through the roof. And that's for me, that's what's made it. It's the client work has been important, and teaching them that aspect of client work has been important, but it's the students themselves for me that make Design Studio as awesome as it is.
Now this is, you shared, y'all had I'm putting that link in the chat, and all these links, if you're watching on YouTube or on SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcast, all these links are right at the top. But they did a piece, and there was a little video, and some of the students were interviewed about this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then we had a written article that just came out yesterday. So we have a video and a digital. So the top row of this particular slide were my original students, plus Logan, who's on the bottom left. And Logan graduated in December. So then we added 4 more. So the bottom 4 to the right are brand new students into Design Studio. It's been seamless. They picked up where we left off. So we did span like holiday break and continue on with clients. And the clients understood, like, we're going to have a little pause here and then we're going to go back to work. But they're a mix of juniors, seniors, and super seniors. So 5th year seniors.
Yeah, I was a 5th year super senior. It wasn't called super senior then. We just called it red shirting, but keep going.
And so we will lose, of this group, we will lose 6 after the spring. And we just had applications come in, and I was looking at the tally before I started today, and I have 8 now that I have to whittle down to those spots.
Wow. So you have how many applied?
6? We have at least 12, I think. And so I can kind of get maybe to 6 or 8 students. Technically our room holds 10. But if everybody's not always there at the same time, I might be able to finagle a little.
Is the class at a certain time of like they have certain like is it a Tuesday, Thursday class and it's for 3 hours from 2 to 4:45 or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. It's Tuesday, Thursday. It's I think 3:15, like a 3 hour 15 class. But like I said, this is the only class that happens in that space. And so they have 24-hour access. And I tell them like that's a privilege to have that. That you have everything that everybody else has to cart around or hope that they have at
Yeah.
their, apartments. And so they have their own printer and they have their own cutting stations and they have their own printers and they have the reso and they have space and they have I there it's always funny because when I come in on a Tuesday and we set up and I need a progress check or something like that, you can tell they've been in there, they've been watching movies on the big screen because they're in there working and I think it's great. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
perfect.
Is it a keypad or is it like they have a key?
It it's a little bit of both. Like they have a keypad that gets into a key and then they can get into the
Oh,
room. Yeah.
gotcha.
Um,
So Maura asked about a laser presses. Do you have any like other funky tools that they get
um,
access to?
we have a glow forge. The department has a glow forge. I wrote a grant for that a few years earlier. There was an issue a little bit with ventilation, so we had it down in our jewelry making room. Our building is a 1935 restored, renovated elementary school.
Oh, wow.
And so the windows don't open or anything like that. And so they had to cut a hole through the exterior of the wall. But we just had that move to where design students can get to it. And I teach a packaging class. We call it structures. And I'm hoping that the students will be able to access it better now. And we'll see some different projects coming out. So
Cool. Okay,
yeah.
so is this that you're showing now, is this a project that the students did?
Yes. So this is We Believe Women. This was our very first client that came in, and they were originally part of the Nita Hill project. And it was great. They came in, they knew exactly what they needed to do. They gave us a project brief instead of us having to ask questions. One of their founders has enough background that she was like, okay, this is what you need. She had a slide presentation, ideal dream client from the get-go. And I was like, this is like too good to be true. And so they needed a rebranding and they needed a website. So that is, if you go to that website now, I think we can go there.
I can put it in the chat. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm your Vanna.
It 100% is all student work, was all driven by that design. They created custom typefaces and they picked the color palette and they did all the work and they did all of the coding and made the websites happen and all that kind of.
Presenting back to the client, they were doing that as well.
Yep, they do everything. So the way that I always envisioned this and what became super important to me was that I am there to guide. I'm not there to drive. I'm not there to make them do anything. We are not, what I didn't want to turn into was like a service bureau for the university.
Right.
I want clients that are going to give them a challenge. I want good work to come out of it. I want them to feel successful. I want the students, to really get something from this. And so they came in and they were like, we need this rebranding. And we were like, okay, we're on it. So for the better part of the semester, the entire team, because we only had 7 then, worked on this project. It was plenty for everybody to do. And I never once said, this is the way we're dividing it. So-and-so's doing this.
So they did that on their own.
Yeah.
Was there a natural lead or did they pick people to lead?
There's a few, I would say, in there that are natural leads. We have some students that will always say, I'll email them, like I'll ask the questions. And then I have another student who will say, okay, I'm making the calendar. And so, I just said to them at some point, we need to be able to know basically a production schedule. We need to have this delivered to them, but we also need to know what's going on. And so I came in the next day and the whiteboard was in completely covered with this person has this task. These people are working on this. These people are working on this. And I never had to say, you're not working enough, or it's not getting finished, or it's not right. They did it. And so when we presented, as we were presenting like pieces, so we would do a bunch of work, we'd have the client come back, basically sign off on it, we would do the next part, and then sign off on it, give us all the content for the website. Okay, we'll see you like in a month and we'll get it done.
So that never happens for me. They never have all the content for the website. I know it's but it's a lot of guiding. Did the students, were they able to guide, or did the client really have all the content?
They had most of it. And then what they didn't have, they were actually really great about, like, hey, we need copy for this section. They were very responsive to, you have too much copy in this section.
Oh, good.
They had a pretty secure team with one of the girls that she did most of the writing for them. And so it just made it really easy to deal with them. I was coming up to CCAC to speak on a panel about design work and like design clients and student interactions. And I literally was finishing my presentation at lunch right before my CCAC presentation, because they had just gotten the sign off on the website. And so I wasn't even there. Like, they presented, I wasn't even there.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the client cried.
Because they were happy.
Yes.
So wait, I have a question about this client. I mean, any client. So how did you find such a great client? Was this through your network, or was this, I mean, we always get a lot of people emailing and say, hey, we've got a great project. And I'm like, okay, I do stuff like that in my fall classes, but they of course want it in the spring. And I'm like, I don't work like that. It has to come in. So I'm doing stuff like this in my classes as well. But when there are clients, how are you vetting the clients?
Yeah. So actually, this client came to us through Mina.
Okay.
So because Mina and I were working through the summer, she was part of we have an organization here in Columbia that has like office spaces. I guess you kind of rent them. Like you could like call
a co-working space, sort of.
Yeah. Like, I need to have a conference table and a setup for that, and you can rent the space. But this particular space is supportive of women. And so somehow she met our client through them. They got to talking, and she said, I really need this work done. And Mina said, oh, you need to talk to Stephanie. And so she emailed me, and we've actually gotten another client through this project because they knew this client. And so mostly everything we have right now has been all word of mouth.
So was it like, do the students work on giving them a bid, or is it just kind of like, here's your budget, this is what we can do? Okay.
This one particularly came in and they had no money. And so we weren't necessarily worried about it. We need to make enough money this year to be able to pay for new ink and stuff like that next year. So our costs are minimal for next year. But since we've started this one, I started to talk a lot more to the students about, okay, how do we charge? Like, nonprofit still has some money. Mm-hmm. They don't have as much money as, a client that has a different budget, which I'll show you the difference in one of our later clients. But the quality of the work is going to be the same whether you're paying us or not.
Right.
So,
but the students don't have to deal with the bidding out for these. You're handling that part?
Yes. Okay. But I have talked to them, like, what do you think about, I was saying the other day, like, I think maybe we should have sort of a package. Like, if you want branding and social media stuff, then it's X dollars and you get 3 rounds of revisions. And if you want a budget, or if you want branding plus the social media plus the website, then that's X dollars. And so we're at least trying to figure out where things start at a baseline. So I feel like this year has been a lot of learning. And of course, you learn when things go wrong. And so we've been trying to figure out okay, next year we're going to come in with a harder plan and be able to say upfront, this is the cost.
Right, right. Well, that's good. And it is a learning time for
Yeah.
sure.
This is a client that we currently have. And so if you notice at the bottom, we've now broken into teams because we're still finishing We Believe Women. And then Cola Love came to us because of We Believe Women. And this is some branding. This was a client who has a much bigger time frame to work with. And so we told them this semester, like, we're done with class on Thursday. And so what can we give you to get you through the summer and have you prepared and be able to function? And then when we come back in the fall, we'll do the website. And so we've just solidified all of the logos with them. So that's their new branding. And Made with Cola Love is a nonprofit group that supports all different kinds of artists in Colombia. And they have a grant process. And then those artists have what they call experiences. So it's like a little pop-up show. So you could be a chef and you're going to be a pop-up guest chef at this restaurant. So they do all of the advertising. They help you get ready. They help you promote it. They help you, set the tables and get the stuff ready. It's super cool. But the idea of what is an artist is completely open.
Redefined.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So is Cola Colombia?
Yes, Cola.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll notice in Colombia, there's a lot of things that are called Soda City because they call it Cola. And so we have the Soda City Market and we have the buses, the bottle cap and stuff like that.
Fun. Okay.
It took me a little bit to get it too. I was like, I don't understand.
I know. I was like, do they have to paint with cola or cook with cola? But maybe I got you. I'm with you.
Cola. And then this is some of the patterns and the color palette and some of the marks that they're using. They wanted to show that it's a homegrown, friendly environment that's nurturing and fun. And so that's what the students have come up with. And so this is sort of the package that we gave them to get them started for the summer. Cool. And again, they created their own font for this.
Are they using like font self or are they using?
Yeah, I'm not 100% which software they're using, but they draw it and figure it out. They usually obviously start with the letters that they need and then they work backwards for what they need to fill in. So this was probably based on somebody's handwriting and then they were like, oh, it's got to be a little funkier. And then they worked through that. So, and again, I'm not holding their hand to figure out how that works. They come to me and they're like, this is done. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing.
So that's not something that they're learning in another class.
I would say they have intros to a lot of things like my basic, my second level typography class. We do some hand lettering that we translate into custom fonts. But again, we're talking about, okay, if we only had to write Cola Love, how do we, get that to happen? These students just seem to always take it to the next level.
Cool.
Yeah. So then we also have Dakota as a client this semester. They're experimental musical group that's collaborative. They play at Juilliard and Carnegie Mellon and like these really big important places. And one of their members is a faculty member at USC. That's how she found us. And so we've been working with them for branding. They haven't 100% signed off on this, but this is where we're headed. They had asked for some corrections. And so that's what the blue arrows was to show them these were the changes you requested. This is how we're fixing it.
Gotcha.
Because we're running out of time for the semester. We haven't met with them again. So I told students, like, you have to explain this as if somebody doesn't understand it at all. They don't think the way we think. So that's why they got the little diagram in there.
So they went a little wider with some of those.
The counterforms, they were concerned with the O and the E reading. And then this is how they're applying it. And the great thing about this presentation, the thing that floored me when they gave this presentation was they had gone and sort of looked at all of the other musical groups that are sort of similar to what Dakota's doing. They pulled up their websites in the middle of the presentation and they said, okay, see what's happening in this one, see what's happening in this one. okay, you don't want to be like that. And here's how we're going to change it. And this is kind of like this treatment of the photo is what they've come up with. And so it may not be this big, but it's that idea that we're going to do this kind of sepia monotone color with the bold white or black logo in it. And here's how it works on all of these different forms. And so they think about stuff. And I know that the things that they're thinking of have been introduced in other classes.
Right.
I teach like intro level typography, and then I teach structures, which is packaging. So I see them their first year in our program and our last year in our program, and I see them in the design studio if they made it. So I know that this other stuff is covered because all of a sudden they've come through and they know it. And I'm like, okay, we're doing a good job here. Like my colleagues are amazing, and I don't have to question whether or not they're learning it. They're learning it.
Right.
Yeah. And then this one's super cool. We have another musician, Mac Leapart, and he came to us. He's a Americana musician out of Nashville. He happens to be a good friend of Marius's, so that's how we got him. But he came to us and he already had his cover art done for his new album. And he was like, so I need something to go on Spotify that's going to match this. And I need like a younger audience. And I'm trying to reach, this kind of person. And so he didn't really know, like he knew he needed help. He didn't know how he needed help. And so our students wanted to show
cool.
him we can animate too. And so they've been doing this animation stuff to put the words over as it's on Spotify for the lyrics. So that's something else they've been working on. And then in this situation, we only had 2. Mm-hmm. So we went from having all 7 to 2 groups of 5 to 2. And that really happened because who can balance this? Who feels comfortable animating? Who has the time? Mm-hmm. And so that's, again, I didn't split any of that. I didn't say you're on this team and you're on this team. I said, who are you interested in working with? Figure it out. And it just happened that they came back 5 and 5, happened that they came back with this animation. And the funny thing about the animation was Mac was like, that's amazing. I want to have the entire song animated. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like that 30 seconds took 6 hours. We can't do the whole song. Let's do clips. But they came back with a really good explanation of how their generation listens to music, finds music, and that's what he needed. And so here they are in their 20s, I would assume, telling somebody close to 50, if not older than that, this is how it's done now. And they didn't have any problem. They were confident in that decision. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do a speed round here at the end. So you're covering this at your panel in SCCAC this fall, but we are required to do research, and often it is design research for clients, and we have to win awards, or sometimes we're writing books, or and it seems like sometimes they push back on if it's about design pedagogy. What types of projects that for you outside of pedagogy, what types of projects do you like to take on at your design studio?
Yeah. So I like anything that has a story. I love working with people who can tell me a story. I love telling someone's story. And so I've gotten really into invitations and announcements, it seems, but I would say that the thing that interests me the most about them is when I can make them a little bit more intricate, perhaps, than just saying, here's an invitation. So, like, for example, this little announcement here, when you open it, it's a little square, but when you open it, it spins. And so it's octopus, and it's the idea that the baby was really active in utero. And so it's about motion and movement, which I loved. I love the interaction. I love the kind of quirky illustration paper that I found, and I letterpressed that. That was fun. And then the center one is an invitation that I just finished for a friend of mine who's getting married at a family home in Boone, in North Carolina. And that's a hand die cut, letterpressed, originally watercolored illustration that I've cut And, it just turns into this thing where it's like, oh no, let me try this and let me try that. And sometimes I get a little carried away, but I want it to be unique. Like it folds down and the lettering's underneath it. Again,
And
letterpress.
the hand skill, the craftsmanship in all
Yes.
of these is evident. I know the B is
Yes.
digital, but it still has a lot of texture and hand feel. I can see the Brent, there's that transparency. So
Yep.
you're really still, it's your knowledge of all the things
Yeah.
in by hand as well, and the materials, I think. And
Yes.
then
And with the invitation with Brent and Leticia, it was about who invited you to the
mm,
wedding. So if she invited you, her name was first. And if he invited you, his name was first. And it was just folding paper and folding and seeing through. And so it's like, how do we get paper to tell a story?
mm.
Which sounds weird, but those are kind of the things I think about.
No, I love that.
And then of course I do branding work, and I've been working on my digital illustration. The notebook there, that's a caterpillar binding that I learned when I was at Kent. But for me, binding is like that Zen moment. I don't have to think about the concept. That part's already done. I'm just binding this book and I'm sitting here and I'm basically sewing it by hand. And so I kind of zone out on that part, but I love that part. I love the craft of that. I've done some artist books and I do client work like that's a museum catalog. Again, some more digital illustration, and then public awareness posters are something that's always been important to me. That's what my thesis was on. And so I'm always thinking about how do you get that message to somebody in 8 seconds, which is how long you have them captured in a poster situation. So I'm thinking about those things too.
Awesome. What is the one that's the Charlie Brown looking like?
Yeah, so I mentioned Jerry Callback earlier in my talk, and he was my illustration professor at Kent. My grandfather passed away the year before I went to Kent, and then Charles Schultz passed away, I think, my first year at Kent. And I mentioned that my grandfather taught me how to read, but I used to just crawl up in his lap. I got up early. I've always been an early bird, and he was up early, and he would sit and have his coffee and his oatmeal and his toast. And I would give him the funny pages on a Sunday and I would say, read this to me. Like I knew that they were cute illustrations. Like there was something about that page, right? And so I would say, read this to me. And I would crawl up in his lap. And so one day he just said, no, you read it to me. And so he gave me the basics. Like he started to teach me how to read, and it was with the Peanuts. So when Charles Schultz passed, that was like a complete gut punch to me. And I was like, man, I don't even know. And I just picked up a dry brush, which is one of the ways I love to illustrate it, dipped it in my ink and just went, and I put it in my portfolio. And I was like, okay, I got it out of my system. Like to me, sometimes it's too art. Like there's in my mind a difference between graphic design and art. And, do they get along and don't they get along? And who knows? But I just put it aside and I didn't think too much of it. And I was having a portfolio review and Jerry pulled it out like from the pocket, pulled it out. And he was like, after we were done, he had gone through everything, gave me his feedback. And it was like he knew, he just pulled it out. He said, so tell me about this. And I was like, oh, well, it's just, this thing I did because I was feeling whatever. And he was like, no. He said, this is the best thing in your portfolio. And I was like, okay, that's kind of insulting. Just my little squiggly line is the best thing in here. But he said, you've got to do something with it. And so I did. I entered it into Griffey's posters and it won an award. And then it's in the permanent collection of Charles Schultz in Santa Rosa, California. So
Oh,
it
cool.
probably was the best thing in my portfolio.
Oh, I love that. That's an awesome story and something that you think it's just me. It's not going to connect to anybody. It was just something
Yeah.
I was doing, but it really is maybe when we're tapping in. And you have to be bold and courageous to be able to show some of that stuff, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
So, we didn't really get to the whole thing that you've done 20 years over and
Yeah.
over. But if do you have some images you can quickly pop up? So we have something, a lot of universities have something like this. And I was thinking about this in relation to being a designer. I have websites I've done 3 times, not like I've done it wrong. It's that just that we try to do it every 5 years or every 4 years. And can you explain to them what the common read is and then how you have incorporated this into the design experience at University of South Carolina?
So the first year reading experience is a freshman icebreaker. Every freshman is sent a book and they're supposed to read it before they get to campus. And then in their University 101 classes, they have something in common so that if you've met another freshman, you can talk at least about the book that you had to read. And so this project actually has been going on since 1993, so a little bit before my time. But it's always been an illustration and graphic design project here at USC. And it only lives in one place. It lives in the dean's office. All of the posters are framed there. This is a website that I made for it. This is what it looks like in the Osborne building. But that was the only place they all were. And I thought, if we don't preserve this history of both this experience that the students have as like general students for the university and as a history of the graphic design students, like we're going to be at a loss if something happens to this. So I got a grant to create this website and to preserve all the posters. And so I've made a framed collection exhibit of them, but I also did this archive of them on, the website so that you can see everything. And you can see the history, how we've gone from just a simple 2-color hand-drawn illustration to now original photography that the students create or original illustrations. We talk about not having anything copywritten the university has to worry about. So this is all student photos, student illustration, student design. And so they have to read the book. We're given a pretty tight deadline.
All different books, right?
All
Every year
books.
It's a different book. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you can even see, if you look at this in detail, like we started fiction and then we got into nonfiction, which when they made a switch to like some of the nonfiction stuff, when we got to thinking about how do you measure success? How do you talk about having a calling? Like those aren't things that there's any imagery for. And so students were having to think about stuff in a completely different way. In 2013, which is this poster with the little digital guides on it, the postmortal, Drew McGarry was coming to the university to speak. We have almost all of the art authors come and speak on campus, and he was coming, and somehow we convinced them, we being the university committee, not me specifically, to not only do the postcard send off and the posters that promote everything, but to change the book covers for every single book that went to the freshmen. So he had to okay that design. Their publisher had to okay that design. And every copy, which is like 15,000 total that go out from our university and like the other sub-universities, had this cover on it.
Cool.
And every year since 2013, the cover has been changed to be our design.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's been super cool. That process has been really neat to watch.
How does that work in the classroom? Like, is it every kid doing their own and then one is chosen? Okay.
Yep. Every student does their own. And my favorite day of this assignment is the first time that we look at concepts, because for a more beautiful question, we have probably on the average about 18 kids in each class. I walked in and I probably saw 15 light bulbs on the class on the board. And I was like, okay, how do we talk about an idea or a question that's not a light bulb? And so that for me is the absolute best part of this process, is having students think about this beyond the first idea. And if you brought in something that looks similar to someone else in class, it's probably not the best thing. It's not the right thing. And the process of design studio, the process of my work, the process of this particular project is figuring that out, is that growth. It's that common, how do we think differently than our neighbor, our peer designer? Like, how do we go above and beyond to be unique, be original, be confident in that, which is probably the hardest thing to learn.
For sure. Okay, so what is next for you as we are out of time?
I think this year has been really a growth year, not just for our program, but for me in general. I feel a new sense of rejuvenation in my own studio, which I didn't expect. The students have me so amped up, like their energy is so high that when I come home from teaching them, I'm like, I can't wait. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm like, oh my God. So I just want to take the summer and I want to play. I want to go to the New York stationery show. I want to take sabbatical and focus on just kind of playing and reintroducing myself to some of this idea of making. Also really know that I need to get better at Procreate. Those students are so fast on Procreate and no one ever taught them that. So I'm like, I've got to catch up. So I watched that a lot in design studio too. And I'm like, man, I'm behind. So I want to do that, but I mostly just I want to stay inspired. I need a little rest at the end of the semester, and then I'm ready to come back in the fall and give it all the energy that they give me. Like, it's been the most amazing experience.
That's cool. When is the New York Stationery Show? And are you going as an exhibitor? Do you have a booth or are you just going as an attendee?
It's August. I want to say August 2nd through the 7th or something like that. I just want to go and see. Like, at this point, I'm looking for inspiration. I want to look at stuff and be like, oh, I never thought about that. Or that's a cool product. Or, well, I have to have that design, So I just want to go and see. I would love to get there someday. Like, I would love to try and figure that out. But for right now, I want to play. I want to see. I want to be inspired. I want to look.
So is that like something you do solo this summer and then you come out? Or is that something that you are part of a group and you'll show them and there's like accountability?
Nah, I'll probably just do it solo. Sometimes you got to hold that thing until you feel confident about being like, okay, here it is. But yeah, I feel like even though I have history with letterpress and I understand that process and I have a press, I have a 1910 press that I use. I feel like I'm a little rusty at it. For some reason, well, I'm also a mom. And so it's like I've switch gears. Sometimes my boys are getting older now, and so they don't need me to be there as much. So I feel like I'm reintroducing myself to some of these skills I used to have. And I think that's part of the rejuvenation too, is to like realize, oh, it's okay to gain more of myself back now. like I can be interested in this stuff and it's not going to affect whether or not mom's there for them.
Right.
So I think right now it feels like a perfect storm.
Well, that's cool. I'm excited for your perfect storm summer. So the best way for people to be, Carrie asked, how old are your kids?
They are 16 and 14.
So old enough to go to the bathroom alone. And
yes. And they just drove to school together for the first time the other day. And I was in a complete panic. Like, my oldest is a great driver. I don't question it, but I was like, oh my God, he's got all my important cargo in one car.
Carrie has two little ones, but they're way younger. So the best way for people to be able to get in touch with you, you gave me your Instagram. I just want 2 and 3 are Carrie's. So Instagram at SNACE75 or at Instagram.com/frogleg_studio. And then you have your website. Is that just Frogleg Studio?
Yep. froglegstudio.com. Yep.
Perfect. I will add that to the and there will be some other images that you guys can see that'll be up on that page as well. Just studio with one no S at the
Right.
end,
And
right?
the frog only has one leg.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right, I'll add that. Stephanie, thank you so much. So much that you were able to share so much. You were I'm sorry I didn't get through all the questions, but I sort of got through a lot of them. I
Yeah.
just had I think it is really fun to be teaching students that are ready. They feel like they were chosen and then they're able to go for it. And it's not so much on the coaching side of you can do this, you can. So I love that, but I'm super excited to see what other kind of projects that y'all, you know, get to take on. And I can't wait to see you in person at Creative South next year, but also at CCAC in the fall. So CCAC is a conference for college art professors, and it's really it's a fun one to go to, and it's in Atlanta, so it's drivable for both of us.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank y'all for coming. And next week we have two things. So on Wednesday we have my friend Amy Bryant, who's a psychologist, and she kind of talked to us about neurodivergent thinking, and I can't remember exactly. I could pull up my text probably and find what it is because I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was because I can't remember. Here it is. She had said, honoring our neurotype is the series topic. And we're going to come up with some questions, and you can check out your email next Tuesday for those questions. And then on Thursday, I'm going to do the final. I also like stories. Stephanie I think sometimes we're not great at telling our own story when we're talking to new clients or potential. So we did how to make compelling stories, tell compelling stories. And the last one is the founder story. Since we all are founders of our own business, usually, I think it's good for us to know how to tell that story. And that is the final one. So expect an email with a link to a YouTube this weekend so that you can watch it and then be part of if you want to be part of I'll ask that in the email, if you want to be on screen for it. Paul can't be there because he's speaking at a conference in Denver. So everybody else, yay, Paul, for that. But it's open. If you are like, I really want help with this, just watch the teaching one sometime before Wednesday, and then let me know before 11 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday that you want to be on screen and do this with me. And if nobody wants to do it with me, then I'll just go through it and y'all can be in the chat. But so we have two kind of things next week, and I'm excited to do those. Stephanie, thank you so much for doing this and for sharing. I can't wait to see some of that stuff that you are inspired by over the summer, and then some of the stuff that you're holding tight, and then when it explodes, I can't wait to be on the other side to see that explosion. So thank you so much. All right, I'll see y'all next week. I'm going to hit stop.